Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you're seeing this video, that means you are here for my September and October reading wrap up. Yes, they were filmed at two different times because I filmed my September one and I just didn't get around to editing it. So we're just going to combine September and October. So we're just going to go ahead and get into it because in September I ended up reading 21 books. And in October I read 14 books. So we're just going to go ahead and get into the nitty gritty. I ended up reading 21 books in September. So before we get into everything, I'm going to go ahead and break down all the stats that I have for you guys. So I read 4 dark romances, 5 fantasies, 5 sci-fi / dystopian books, 5 romances, 1 psychological fiction, 1 psychological thriller, and 1 thriller. And in total, I read 21 books, and overall, I read 8,299 pages. September of 2024 was an all-time high for me. I beat my other all-time high. Before this, I only read 14 books, and that was back of July of 2023, a little bit right after I graduated college. And here I am upping the game even more. We're reading 21 books in September. Yeah, I went crazy, go stupid. It didn't even feel like I read this many books. Guys, let's go ahead and get into this September reading wrap up. And we're starting off strong because I started this month off, started September off finishing up the tandem read of Throne of Glass. So this is books 5 and 6, which consist of Empire Storms and Tower of Dawn. So I had a lot of people ask me, do I think that doing the tandem read is necessary? And I'm gonna keep it a buck and I'm gonna say no. I really think that I really wish I would have read these books separate. I don't think doing the tandem read was necessary, and I don't think reading these together made me read the books any faster. If anything, I feel like it slowed me down. I love these books for the completely two different reasons. I would definitely say Empire Storms is definitely more action-based and action plot driven, where in Tower of Dawn, this book is more of character driven and it has more of like a character plot. In this story, we're following Elena and how the war is about to come and hit between kind of like the dark ones and everybody else. And then in this book, we have Kel and what's her name? Irene, and what else? What is her name? And Nazrin, where we're following their story about how he's learning to walk again. And this story is happening on the southern continent, where this story is taking place in the northern continent, but they take place at the same time. But realistically, I love these stories as equally. I gave both of these stories both 4 stars. I thought they were both very impactful in telling us what is going to be setting us up for the last book in the series. And y'all, jaw drop, I fell in love with every single last one of these characters. In the beginning, I had some characters that I like and didn't like, but as I was reading these stories, I fell in love with every single last one of these characters. That's it. That's all. So the next book I ended up reading was Five Brothers by Penelope Douglas. This is a standalone book, but this also has a companion novel. It's called Trust 6 Venom that I had read in August, but I ended up reading this. This was a buddy read. I ended up giving this book, I think I said 2 stars, but let me double check. So I gave this book 3 stars. We are following the 5 brothers in the Trust world. So they're all brothers. We're just following the story and basically how they do with life living on the other side of the tracks. You know, you have the rich people, kind of how the poor people, and we're just like really seeing the story. Overall, I thought this book was definitely better than Trust 6 Venom, which is the companion novel, but I didn't really feel much connected to the characters in the plot, but I did say I think this book had a really good mental health representation. I love me some Penelope Douglas, but for some reason, her standalone novels have not been hitting for me. So I'm hoping whenever I do pick up Punk 57, that's the one that's going to do it for me. But the only standalone novel that I read so far that has done it for me by Penelope has been Birthday Girl and Credence. I don't know what's going on, but Trust 6 Venom and 5 Brothers, I'm not enjoying. Also, this kind of has like a one bed trope. And I don't know what the trope is called when there's like one person sleeping with multiple people. But yeah, I digress. And then we moved on to some more romance. I have Happy Place by Miss Emily Henry. I gave 4 stars, where we follow Win and Harriet, where they're kind of like fake dating because they're going on a trip with their friends, but they basically kind of have grown apart, and we're following what their life is after like graduating college and adjusting, and like years after. And I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm like the biggest sucker for a second chance romance, but I fell in love with Harry and Win. I know people said like if you love Happy Place, you not gonna like Beach Read, and if you like Beach Read, you gonna like Happy Place. But I enjoyed these books bothly. I feel like as somebody who is in my post grad era and my like it's still kind of in my early 20s. I feel like I could relate a lot to Harriet and Win. Although I'm not with any of the people that I used to be with in that time when I was in college and we developed after, I could relate to that yearning and, feeling like you're growing apart because you have this expectation about life and where you want to be. And sometimes those expectations don't end up being a reality that we're living. So I definitely felt I loved everything about this book. I love the navigation of grief and how to just deal with friends after college and just like everybody. But yeah, I just feel like I this is a story that I probably would be thinking about for a while. It didn't give me like that 5-star feel when I finished it. Like I'm not like overly thinking about it, but I do know like this is a book that I know that I would reread again. I finished off the Throne of Glass series, and this is Kingdom of Ash by Miss Sarah J Maas. I gave this book 5 stars. I just don't feel like there's really much to say or talk about this book without really spoiling what's going on. But I would just say in the beginning, I thought 980 pages was definitely absurd. I thought like maybe she might be doing too much. But this is the first time I actually read a book that was extremely long where I was just like, oh my God, like every page was really worth it. I was invested from beginning to end. Like y'all, I binged this book. I finished this book, this hefty book, in 3 days. Now I know some people have finished it quicker than that, but for me, 3 days for a 980-page book is crazy work. Like I just knew this book was gonna take me 2 weeks. I went from thinking it was gonna take me 14 days and finish it in 3 days. I don't know what I was smoking, what I was on, but y'all, I love this book. I love everything about our characters. I love this book so much that I literally gave it 5 stars. 5 stars. It deserved nothing but 5 stars. This was a great, fabulous way to end a story. If you want to know how to end a story and make your characters invested, Kingdom of Ash is the story to do it. And then we read The Queen of Psychological Thrillers. Yes, some Frida McFadden. I read The Surrogate Mother by her. I gave it 3 stars. She did what she needed to do. I just needed a palate cleanser off of Kingdom of Ash. So there's nothing spectacular. I kind of had a little inkling about how it was going to end and how the story was going to go, which I'm not really the best at guessing. But for me to be kind of like on the right path and be kind of correct, it kind of scared me a little bit. But yeah, I definitely can see myself potentially rereading this book, but like there's nothing like outstanding about this book, but there's nothing horrible. She just did it what she needed to do. A palate cleanser. And then I have my September book club. So this was Immortal Dark by Tigger's Grandma. And if you know me, if you follow me on TikTok, then you know how much I was raving about this book, how much this was like one of my anticipated reads. And I ended up giving this book 4 stars. So Ticket's Grandma is a new upcoming author. This was her debut novel, but we followed the story of Susanos and Kiran in the University of Uxley, and basically we're learning about how these vampires and humans, how they work together, and basically what's going down with the Adana house, and basically how who's going to be the owner. Is it going to end up being Kiran or is it going to be Susanos? And yeah, and we just follow their story. This is supposed to be a trilogy. This is book number 1. This is a true enemies to lovers that is rooted in Ethiopian culture. This is all African culture. This is heavily focused on Black people and BIPOC characters. Okay, and let me tell you, she nailed it on the head. But for me, there was something that just wasn't connecting me to this novel in the way that I was expecting it to expect it to be connected to. And I don't know what it is. I can't really figure out what was that inkling in my mind that I don't really resonate with this story the way I wanted to. But yeah, I thought she was great. She was good. I just wasn't as connected or invested as I was expecting myself to be, which kept it at that 4 star. It had 5 star potential, but if I was just a little bit more invested and cared just a little bit about the story and our two main characters, it easily could have been 5 stars. But because I wasn't, that's what kept it at a 4 star rating. But I'm intrigued. For a debut novel, I think this is fantastic, and I cannot wait to see what else Miss Tegus Grandma has to offer, and I can't see where the rest of the story is going to take us. Another highly anticipated read that also was kind of very disappointing for me, which I'm very upset because everybody was loving this book, but we have Daydream by Miss Hannah Grace. Y'all, I gave it 3 stars. Don't hate me. Don't hate me because I love my boy Henry. I love Henry. I love Haley. They're cute. They're cute. It was such a feel good romance. But I just really don't see them as boyfriend and girlfriend. I see them as being really good friends with benefits. That's what it gave to me. I think they're really good friends with benefits. I really don't think they're lovers for real. Like it didn't feel instant lovey, but it felt like they were already together from the very first time he met them on the page. Like, and that's why I think I couldn't see them as like partners, because for me, it gave that they were partners from the very beginning. It never gave like Henry was trying to get with Haley. Haley was trying to Haley. Haley was trying to get with Henry. Henry was trying to get with Holly, Haley, whatever her name is. It didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like there was any like chasing, yearning, groveling. It just felt like they were together already. So for me, I didn't feel like that romance kind of hit. But what I did like, I liked how Hannah Grace wrote about the scenes and how to respect each other, having consensual like relationships, like romantically, platonically, and even sexually, which I enjoy. And I feel like she does a really good job in like having that aspect in all 3 of her books. This is also the last book in the Maple Hill series. There's 2 other books. There's Icebreaker, which is the first book, and then there's the second book, which is Wildfire. But yeah, this is also a completed series. But I'm also interested to see what else Miss Hannah Grace has to offer, because I did enjoy the story. I thought it was cute. She did what she needed to do. She was nice. She was fluffy. Did not dislike her at all. She was just okay for me. And then another book that I thought was gonna be a 5 star read, because this is the second book in the Lakefront Billionaire series. This is Love Unwritten. I read Love Redesign earlier in the summer, around back in June, I believe, and I gave it a 4 stars. So I just knew this one was gonna be a 5 stars because one of my mutual on TikTok, so she's like, "You're gonna love this book, Asia. If you love Redesign, you was gonna love this one." So this one, we follow the story between Raphael and Ellie. We have single dad, nanny trope romance. It's great. You think with these nice little romance that I was gonna eat it up, babes? Not only did eat this book up, I ate this book up and was highly disappointed. One, I felt like this book is extremely long, and for somebody who loves love redesign, it's just as long. I just feel like this story could have been shorter by like 200 150 pages, and it could have easily gave it 4 stars because I wouldn't have got bored. But oh my god, I just felt like this book was trauma dump after trauma dump after trauma dump. Like between Ellie and her trauma and then Raphael and his trauma, I was just like, Luchale, I cannot take any more trauma, okay? Between pain, grief, insecurities, I was just like, can we catch a break? Now, what I would say is I enjoyed the kid in this book. Nico, is that his name? I think his name is Nico. I can't really remember. I'm not the best at remembering characters' names, so I'm so sorry. But I enjoyed the child in his book. It was like a breath of fresh air. He was so nicely written. Okay. Sometimes I don't like kids in books, but in this one, it ate it up. Okay. But yeah, it was nice. The communication was okay. It's not a bad book, not the best book. She's okay. 3 stars. Had to bring y'all in a little bit closer because I just felt like y'all were a little bit far away. But now we have You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. I gave this 3 stars. This is also not my first Geneva Rose book. I believe this is actually the third one that I've read at this point. I really like her. Like I said, I kind of know what to expect when coming in with her books. But for me, this one kind of really didn't do it for me. It wasn't bad, but I would say for like at least a good 60% of this book, I kind of knew how this story was going to end. And that just made me sad because I sadly did guess kind of what was going to happen, and that made me mad. And then the ending made me feel very indifferent because I didn't know how to feel, and I was a little confused about the ending. But overall, I felt like it had a great storyline and a really good premise to the story, and she did what she needed to do. There's just like nothing special about her. So, yeah. Oh my god. I feel bad for saying that, but we shall move on. Oh, no, my camera getting hot. Moving on. Night Bane. Alex Asher. This is the second book in the Lightlark series. The third book, the third book, Sky Shade, comes out in November. So I went ahead and read this book. 5 stars. Okay, first book was 5 stars. Second book is 5 stars. Heavy hitter Alex Asher. I love this woman. Only great was I was a little confused with the flashbacks. But once I understood and we got where we were going, I cannot choose between Grimm and Oro. You want me to choose between Grimm and Oro, but I feel like they both do our FMC so well. Babes, if you knew what I know after reading this book, y'all, I was tearing up. I was crying, throwing up in the back of the club. Okay? Okay? After this ending, I need the third book now. Okay? If you miss Alex Asher or her publishing company, Amulet, if you ever come across this video and you see this, can I please get art? Can I please get the advanced reading copy? I need it now. I need to know what's gonna happen now. Okay. 5 stars, there's nothing else to say. But damn. If you really have to make me choose a sky shade between Aura and Grimm, count your motherfucking days. Count them. Thank you. Management. And the next book I don't have because I read it on my Kindle because everybody just had this book on their fall TBR. Everybody's just hyping it up on TikTok. So if you guessed it, yes, we're talking about the Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Miss Lori Gilmore, which is like everybody's just like, if you like Gossip Girl, it's Gossip Girl in a book. I read this book, y'all. I gave it 3 stars. There was nothing special about this book. Okay, she was freaking K. Yeah, I didn't know what to expect because, like I said, everybody was posting about this book, but you have like an instant love, little miscommunication, small mystery in this novel. Yeah, I really just bought it because it was on sale for 99 cents on Kindle, and one of my mutuals told me about it, and I said, this is my time, this is my time to shine. So I read it, and I finished it in the same day, and then I gave it 3 stars, and then I looked at myself, and then I looked at my Goodreads, and then I said, wow, that's it, and that was that. And then this next book I read is purely for nostalgia purposes, and it's just a book I always reread, so there's really not much to say. But let me tell y'all, The Fault in Our Stars by John Green would do it for me every single time. It's a 5-star read. Every single time I read this book, it's been 5 stars, but this time I read this book with the audio, and I really truly just like immersed myself in the audio. And I fell even more in love with my characters, Hazel and shoot. Oh my god. Hazel Grace and Augustus Waters. Oh my god. I can't believe I just blinked on some of my most favorite characters. But 5 stars. I love this world. I love our characters. I love the romance. I just love everything about this book. I feel like talking about this book even more outside of what I just said, just like it's not fair to all the other books I read this month because I already knew what was going to happen. But man, does John Green does it with me every time. I will reread this book every year, and I finally did my yearly reread, and it's still 5 stars. I love this book. When I die, please bury this book with me. Thank you. Yeah, and then I read some more books that were if, you know that saying Drake says I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Yeah, so I picked up the Lost Boys series by Miss Nikki St. Crow. I read The Never King and The Dark One. I started with these ones. The Dark One I gave 5 stars. Wait, hold on. The Never King book is first. I read this book first, gave it 4 stars. This book is second. I gave it 5 stars. This book was good. This series is a Peter Pan and Wendy retelling, and let me tell you, I was eating these books up from beginning to end. Okay, but this one right here, the Dark One. When I said I was laughing at Kiki and giggling and kicking my feet from beginning to end, I kid you not. These books are great. Okay, I did not know what to expect coming in, but they're great. I have nothing bad to say. Nothing bad at all. I have to hurry up because my camera is gonna die. But moving on, I read the whole Divergent series, okay, including the little Oh my god, including the little novella that I didn't know they had, but we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about it. I gave Divergent 5 stars. Reread this. Tristan 4, that does it for me every single time. It's just something about the Divergent series. It just does it for me. Just reading sci-fi dystopian novels that came out when I was in middle school. Like, I remember putting everybody on in middle school when I was reading these books. Okay, so y'all, it just does it. Okay, that's all I can say about it, because I feel like if I say anything else, I'd just be like not giving the story away. But it's just like not fair because it's a reread. Insurgent, I gave this book 5 stars. It's a little bit slower paced than Divergent. Still fast paced, just not as fastly as Divergent. And I found myself getting a little irate with Tristan in this book, but I was getting irate with her for good reasons, because baby girl's going through a lot. Okay, she's grieving a lot. There's a lot of changes that happen. We see like some distance forming between her and Four in their relationship, but yeah, still great. I love it. Um, and then I read Allegiant by her, and I love this book. It was still good. I forgot like really how much like really happens in this book, and I forget how insufferable like the beginning half of this book is. I was just like, oh my god. And then we got Ford's POV, which I'm just like, okay, like not really like necessary. There's not really a lot of action at this time. We're kind of coming off like post-war and trying to figure out how we're gonna like get back, how we're gonna decide to do things. We see things that happen between Tristan Four, Tristan, her brother, Caleb, I think that's his name. So yeah, we have the government. Tristan really grew more on me in this book. Four was irritating me a little bit in this book, but you know, they're both grieving like respectfully in their rooms. So yeah, I gave this book 4 stars. And then I ended up reading Four by Miss Veronica Roth. I think I gave it 2 stars. No. I think I gave it 2 stars. If you read the whole Divergent series and you're reading them back to back, I would say this is not necessary. We just see some key like moments that happen throughout the series and a little bit before he met Trish. But overall, I would say this book was not needed at all if you read the whole series. Now, if you want to read Four and you're reading it like years later, then I would say yes, it might be a little bit more adorable. But since I read all the books back to back to back, I was just like, this is literally everything that's already in the books. You're not really getting a lot of new information. Now, I would say what would have been great is like if we took the first part of this book and stressed it through the whole book and really see what Four life was like before he joined, before he even met Trish. That would have been great. I read the novella. We Can Be Mended by Veronica Roth, which is like 3.5 in the book. I gave it 3 stars. It's quick. It was 22 pages where we're finding out like basically how Ford and Christina are doing post Allegiant. I don't want to say too much because then it would be spoiling it, but overall, the Divergent series is great. I will reread this series again sometime in my life, but yeah. And lastly, I finished off September with finishing up the Lost Boys series. This is the third book. Well, I didn't finish it up, but I read the third book in the series. This is Their Vicious Darling. And I gave it 4 stars. She was great. I definitely was falling in love with Winnie. The esteem, like self-esteem between Van and Peter Pan. I was like, ooh. Oh my god, when they challenge each other, I don't know what it is. Is this a micro trope? But when the boys are like one girl and they want to share her and they get possessive over her, I eat that up every time. Okay, this book definitely had the most plot and probably like the most action kind of going on. I was intrigued beginning to end, so I just could not wait to see how this book was going to end. And like these books are so short, but like they're so good. Like I just enjoyed this book so much. And I really love my girl, Winnie, Peter, Van. I love the Lost Boys. I just love how she did this Peter Pan retelling, okay? But that's that. But let me break down my latest reading stats for October. So in October, I read 14 books that consisted of 2 dark romances, 2 fantasies, 1 horror, 3 romances, and 6 romanticities. In total, that came out to 5,976 pages, and my average rating was 3.2 stars. So let's go ahead and get into all the 14 books that I read in October. So the first book I ended up reading is called The Fae Princess by Nikki St. Croix. This is the fourth and the final book in the Lost Boys series. I think that's what it's called. I think it's called the Lost Boys series. But if I'm wrong, I would correct myself. And I'm giving this book 3 stars. Overall, if you want a series where you're gonna be here for a good time and not a long time, I would definitely recommend this series. But I just did not have as much fun with this book as I did with the other books in the series, and I thought it wasn't like the best way to end it. Overall, I still love our characters. This is a Peter Pan and Wendy retelling. I enjoyed the story. I just wasn't like kickling and giggling my feet the way that I had with the other novels. So yeah, and this is a dark romance. This next book that I ended up reading is called The Ritual by Adam Neville. I was so excited to start this book because I had literally watched the movie and I was like, oh, the movie was so good, so the book has to be even better. I ended up giving this book, I think, 1 star. Yeah, I think I gave this book 1 star. And yeah, it's a horror book. It just, like, I was not intrigued with this book at all. I also listened to the book, like, via audio. I did immersive reading, so I listened to the audio and read the book at the same time. But y'all, I was just, like, not intrigued. And then I was really sad because, like, I'm one of those people, if it's a book and a movie, I gotta read the book first and then watch the movie. But in this case, the movie was actually better than the actual book. It started off great, and then it just like died, and it just kept going down and down and down. So yeah, this is The Ritual. The next book I also ended up reading is a fantasy. This is Masters of Death by Miss Olivia Blake. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I thought this book had a really nice premise, but I felt like it was really hard for me to follow the story. I found myself getting really lost, and also Miss Olivia Blake uses really big vocabulary words. So I found myself like Googling all the new words to like know the definitions outside of context clues when I couldn't figure it out. And I just found it like really hard for me to grasp the story. And I also listened to this book via audio as well. I did immersive reading with this book, and I just found myself like not really engaged in it. We're following like so many different characters, and there was only like 2 characters that I really cared about their story. And when you're having a book where there's multiple characters involved, it's really so hard to balance like which characters you're gonna like and not like. And in this case, I only ended up liking 2 characters, therefore I was like really only invested in their stories. So then when it came to everybody else, I felt like it was a little flat. I did enjoy the ending. I thought the ending was very much bittersweet and great. This was my first Olivia Blake book. I do think in the future I'll probably go back and reread this book, because it could also have been like not the right time for me to read this book. So I think maybe like next year or so I could see myself rereading this book. But as of right now, the book was just okay for me. It didn't really stand out too much. It's my first Grace Riley book. I actually went to a book signing, so all my books by her are actually signed. So it was really great to like actually meet the author. She's such a soulful person, and she's just so bubbly. I really enjoyed her. But this is First Down. This is her first book in her series. I can't remember what this series is called. I think it's called the Breakaway series, but I could be wrong. That is either Breakaway or Beyond the Play series. But this is the first book. This is a romance novel. This is a college romance, to be more specific, and we just following James and Bex, and following their story together and how they end up together. I really enjoyed this story. I gave it 4 stars. I was giggling and laughing the whole freaking time. I was just like, wow. I found myself just in love with the way Grace Riley, her pacing was great. I loved her characters. The side characters was great. I didn't feel like there was anything in the story that was unnecessary. I even felt like the length of this novel was even great. I just didn't love the novel, but she was great, and I cannot wait to get into the rest of this series. The next book I ended up reading was probably one of my most like anticipated reads off my fall TBR, because this book gets so much hype, and that was The 7-Year Slip by Miss Ashley Poston. This is a romance with magical realism elements, and I gave this book 3 stars. I really wanted to love this book. but I just found myself not as invested in the story and the characters as much as I thought I was going to be, because just like hearing the way everybody talked, and everybody's like, you have to read the 7-Year Slip, you have to, you have to, you have to. And then I finally got around to it, and I just was a little bored. I also did immersive reading with this book as well, so I also listened to the audiobook, and I also read the physical copy. But yeah, I just felt like Clementine was okay, but I don't know. I don't know what about this book that I just did not find myself loving. But I think I was just a little bit let down. Not because the book is bad, but because all the expectations in my head was just like, it's such a great book. I have not heard not one thing. So I felt like in my head before I picked up this book, I kind of already had this book on a pedestal. And I think that kind of played a little bit of a role of my expectations when I was reading. But I just felt like the 7-Year Slip was good. It was okay. She did what she needed to do. But I didn't think it was the best book out there. I felt like I read other books that had better magical realism in it, for at least for my liking. And that's okay, because not every book is going to be for everybody, and unfortunately this book was just okay and not the best cup of tea for me. I also started another series. This is the Love Life Farm series. This is the second book in that series by B.K. Borison. This is In the Weeds, and this is supposed to be a small town rom-com, but this is a romance, and I ended up giving Baby Girl 2 stars. Hear me out. I really wanted to love this book because the covers are cute, the premise was stunning, it had a great storyline. It really did. It did. The characters is great. The town is great. I loved it. But I think the execution for me just wasn't there. And I think it wasn't there because this book is described by the author itself for this to be a charming romantic comedy. I was not giggling in my feet not once. So I read this book maybe 1 or 2 times at max. But, you know, if it's supposed to be a romantic comedy, the majority of the book should be having a kiki haha, not a kiki no. Okay? I was just not enjoying it. If this book was just marketed as a small town romance, it could have probably been a 3, because then the expectation of comedy relief wouldn't have been there. But the whole time I was reading it, I was like, is that supposed to be funny? We're following the story of Evelyn, who's a social media influencer, and then Beckett, who lives in a small town. They had a one-night stand, and then Evelyn's just trying to find her stuff and what she loves to do. And we're just following the story between Evelyn and Beckett in the small town. But y'all, the writing was phenomenal. The story was great. The pacing was good. I just was not invested in the characters, and there was no comedy. And that's alright. I am going to continue with the rest of the series, so I can't wait to see what the rest of the series have to offer, because I think B.K. Borison has really great writing and has a great writing style. Alrighty, we're just going to talk about this whole series as a whole, but we have the ACOTAR series. So what I've been doing lately is choosing a series that I'm going to complete for the month. And for October, ACOTAR was the series that I was going to read for the month. So we're going to get in here and we're going to talk about it, because overall I fell in love with the ACOTAR series. All 5 of the books in the series is romantasy. So we're going to get in here and start talking about it. In this first story, we have A Court of Thorn and Roses. I gave this 3 stars. I felt like the beginning started off really slow. I felt like the first 60% I was just like waiting for something to happen, and then the last 40% it was just like pacing, it just completely picked up, and I fell in love with it. In the beginning, I felt Sarah to be a little bit like naive, and I'm like, girl, if you just listen to the people around you, you wouldn't be in the predicament that you're in. And I kind of at this point was really enjoying Tamlin. I was just like, yes, the book is Ian. I'm loving it. We moved into the second book in this series. This is A Court of Mystic Fury. And in this story, we're following Farah as well. And we're still following Tamlin. And basically, we're following how she's going to go rescue Tamlin. And then this is where we start to meet Rhysand and figure out everything that's happening underneath the mountain that is happening up leading to the war. And I give this book 5 stars. I think it's truly a 6-star read in my heart. I gave it 5. Y'all, I did a whole full ACOTAR reading vlog, and just thinking about this book, I'm about to start tearing up. But I did a whole full ACOTAR reading vlog, so you will see when I say this book emotionally wrecked me. Like, I was not prepared because I previously read the full Throne of Glass series, so like I kind of knew how Sarah did it, but like Throne of Glass did not really emotionally wreck me. Like, there were moments where I'm like, had a tear, and I was just like, okay, boo-hoo. But this book right here, it was really pulling on my heartstrings. Farrah, Rhysand, Tamlin, the sisters, Nesta, Elaine. I'm not saying I ate this book up. I ate it up. I read this book in one full day. One day. I love her. This is my pride and joy. This is my baby. ACOTAR and Wings and Ruin. I immediately jumped into this book. I gave this book 4 stars. I gave this book 4 stars. And in this book, we're following Farrah as she's a spy in the Spring Court with Tamlin. And we're trying to figure out how things and get information for the war that is brewing. And we're kind of on the brink of the war at this point. And I enjoyed this book just as well. I just felt like I wasn't as emotionally invested as I was in A Court in Mist and Fury. So that's why I didn't end up giving it 5 stars. But this is definitely a high 4. I enjoyed everything about this book. We seen a lot of different chess moves going on in this book to set up the plot for the upcoming book. I enjoyed it nonetheless. I just wasn't as emotionally attached as I was with A Court in Mist and Fury. Court of Frost and Starlight, I gave her 2 stars. To me personally, I just felt like this book wasn't needed, but also, I was reading these books back to back to back. I was reading these books back to back to back. So I felt like if I would have taken a break after reading A Court of Wings and Ruin, I feel like A Court and Frost and Starlight could have been rated a little higher. But since I read them back to back, I think I was expecting a little bit more. But this is truly a breather book. You're just following Farrah and Rhysand and their friends as they were building themselves off the war in the Night Court, and we're just following their journeys. We get multiple POVs here, so like there's really not much to offer in this book outside of the relationship that's being found within the found family trope that we're seeing throughout the series. I finished off the series reading A Court of Several Flames. I gave this book 5 stars, and I gave it 5 stars not because it emotionally wrecked me. I gave it 5 stars because I love the character development. I love the way Sarah did the found family trope in this book. Like, ooh, chef's kiss. I fell in love. I have another level of deep appreciation for Nesta, because in the beginning I was like, Nesta, you are not that girl. You need to pipe the fuck down. Okay, that's literally how I was feeling. But Nesta and Cassian and all my theories were just coming true. Throughout this whole series, all my theories are actually coming true. But this one right here, she's thick. Nonetheless, she's thick. But oh my god, the character development, I love the story. I fell in love with Glenn and what's her name? I can't even remember Shawty's name. But it definitely starts with E, but her little group of friends and the family that she was forming for herself. I fell in love, and I just fell in love with ACOTAR overall. So I finished ACOTAR, and yeah. This is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillick. This is the Shepherd King series. This is the first book in the duology. I ended up giving this book 2 stars. I really wanted to love this book because everybody always talks about how you need the magic system and everything in, but there's like no world building in this book at all, and I never really find myself really invested in the characters nor the story that was really taking place. I believe this book is split into 4 parts. I felt like the first 3 parts of this book was just kind of like, but I love the 4th part of this book. The ending of this book, I was chef's kiss. I am going to continue on with this series, but for me, I felt like although the magic system was unique, I felt like the magic system is still very basic, and I was just like, that's kind of sad because I feel like it could have been extended and been just a tad bit deeper. Also, on top of that, I just felt like with the setting, we get like the 2 castles and the mist, and then that's about it. I would have loved to see a little bit of a deeper setting, since this is supposed to be more like a cozier, dark, like gothic fantasy, and I think she could have teetered a little bit more on that darker, like airy line, and I think I had that expectation going in, and I think because that expectation wasn't met, since that's something I went in with, it just kind of pulled me away from the story. I think it had a really great premise, but for me, I didn't find it to be well executed, and that's okay. I am going to continue on with the Shepherd King's duology, so I will be reading 2 Twisted Crowns. but I'm hoping that would be a little bit better since I'm already done with the first book and I really enjoyed the ending. So I'm excited to see where the story goes. I can see myself maybe potentially rereading this, but books that I rate 1 or 2 stars are really like very low on that list. But I could probably see myself maybe rereading this, and maybe at a different time in my life I might appreciate this book a little bit more. But as of right now, I'm standing firm on my decision with my 2 stars. And then for my book club, if you guys are interested, I do have a book club on Facebook, and it's called After the Page Turn. But for October, our book club that we're reading was Got the Conobar Runics. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I really wanted to enjoy this book because everybody who's part of my book club, who joins me on my TikTok lives or reading sprints, were like, Asia, you're gonna love it, you're gonna love it. And they were just hyping my head up. And I wanted to love it, but I felt like the beginning of the story was just like really slow for me, and it took me a really long time to get invested in our main characters, which include Dad and what's the girl's name? Corvina. And on top of that, I kept calling Corvina in the beginning COVID in my head for some odd reason, and that made me feel bad. But it's supposed to be a dark romance, dark academia, and I enjoyed it. It was okay, but like I didn't like love the story. I thought the plot was very interesting. I felt the plot twist, I wasn't expecting that, but also at the same time I do feel like another reader could have felt like the plot twist was very predictable. I think for my first Runics book, I thought this was actually amazing, and I think the author is actually phenomenal. I felt like it was well executed. I just felt like there was something missing, and I just feel like also I feel like she could have teetered a little bit more on that like gothic, airy sense. I feel like it was really heavily focused on dark romance, and I feel like she could have just made it like a tad bit creepier in a way that could have really played on like the lore that we see from the town and about the university. So yeah. And last but not least, the last book I ended up reading was on my Kindle, and it was an arc by C.C. Hartley by the Atheon book publishing, I believe, but it's called Air, Stardust, and Secrets, and I ended up giving that book a 5 stars. I can't say much about it because it is an arc, but we're following the story of a girl, what's her name? Nyleria, in this town, and she basically ends up getting found by the king, and she's supposed to be this very important part of you know, keeping a war that happened between the Fae realm and the human realm, because 500 years ago they had a big standout war, and she's basically supposed to be the savior, and we're just following her journey in that. And I absolutely love the book, y'all. When I said I finished this book last night and I was on the edge of my seat gasping, I was just like, I think this truly has been one of the best arcs that I read, and yo, I was easily taken aback because I feel like arcs can not only be hit or misses, but it was just like some of the other reviews that I read before I started, it was kind of comparing it to ACOTAR, and although I can see the comparisons, I really feel like Air, Stardust, and Secrets can stand on a league of its own. But I would say if you enjoy the romantasy aspects and the books like ACOTAR and romantasy written, I think you would love Air, Stardust, and Secrets. I will put it on the screen when I edit this video when this book comes out, and where you can buy it and where you can get it, because I feel like you guys should read it. I absolutely loved it and adore it. Alrighty guys, if you made it this far, that means you watched this video all the way to the end. I want to say thank you so much for watching my September and October reading wrap up. I'm always so appreciative. I know this one's going to be a little bit on the longer side because I am combining 2 months together, so I apologize in advance, but thank you for sticking it out to the very end. We had 2 very successful reading months, I would say, back to back. I actually wasn't expecting to read this many books because I read so many books in September, so I was actually expecting to enter a little book run, maybe even a book slump, but yeah, we're still going strong over here. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, please connect with me on any of my socials. They're all going to be linked down below. Until then, I see you guys all in the next one, and be safe, and I love you guys. Mwah.